A fierce dog blocking the path uncovers a shocking murder case. Parts of a female body are found in the computer. Horrible cockroaches are discovered in the pork. A young girl harbors dual DNA in her body. Who on earth is the real murderer? The young couple was shocked by the scene before their eyes, and they called the police right away. The SWAT team arrived at the scene quickly, through forensic investigation. The deceased was identified as Laura, only 24 years old. The time of death was not long ago. The cause of death was severe blood loss, caused by a slashed carotid artery. The wound's direction from right to left showed that the murderer should be right-handed. The discarded clothes suggested that Laura was assaulted. Because of the dog's innate instinct to protect its owner, the forensic doctor quickly collected samples from its mouth. Police officers March and Taylor quickly launched an investigation. There were no signs of forced entry at the scene, and the murder weapon was taken away, showing that it was a crime committed by an acquaintance. At the same time, police officer Tuta learned from Laura's landlady that the gentle-natured Laura never had disputes with others. Her American boyfriend also held a key to the apartment. Just then, important clues were also found in Laura's phone. After identification by the landlady, it was confirmed that the other person was Laura's boyfriend John. The special homicide unit summoned him to the police station right away. Facing Laura's death, John was overwhelmed with grief. He confessed to Taylor that he did go to Laura's apartment last night, but his pet dog at home needed care, so he went home at 9:30 p.m., and neighbors could testify. When police officer Benson informed John that Laura had been brutally assaulted, he said in a hurried tone that their sexual relations were both consensual, and emotionally pointed out that the murderer must have sneaked into the room to commit the crime after he left. But Laura's test report came as a huge surprise. 2 different DNAs were actually detected in her body. Benson guessed right away that perhaps Laura was caught by her boyfriend while being intimate with someone else. John committed the crime impulsively, in a fit of extreme anger, but John was surprisingly calm, magnanimously saying that he respected Laura's decision, and asked the police to arrange a lawyer for him. An investigation revealed that on the night of the crime, John had a fierce argument with his neighbor over the hygiene of his pet dog, and he had no time to commit the crime at all. The investigation suddenly reached a dead end. Benson and Taylor then went to Laura's parents' home for investigation, but were angrily driven away by the couple. They firmly denied that their daughter would have an affair with 2 men at the same time, and were completely unwilling to cooperate with the investigation. But just then, Benson suddenly noticed that Laura's father Bieber's hands were wrapped in gauze. The other person claimed to have been injured at work. He then revealed a key piece of information. Laura always changed jobs frequently. She was suddenly fired by the clothing store owner not long ago. Based on this key information, the two quickly went to the clothing store for investigation. They learned from the person in charge that Laura could always win the favor of customers with her sweet words, but one day she suddenly had a drastic change in her temperament. She was simply a completely different person from what everyone had described. Then Laura quickly rushed out the door and never came back. Why was Laura behaving so abnormally? Benson guessed that it was an emotional outburst caused by work pressure, but the next second, Taylor suddenly received a call from the police station. A large number of photos of women's buttocks were astonishingly found in Laura's computer. The case suddenly fell into a fog of mystery. The forensics department said that Laura's computer had been mysteriously cleared. The other person was highly likely the murderer. Based on these sexy photos, Taylor guessed that Laura might have a special fetish for specific body parts. Everyone started a fierce discussion about this right away. Just then, Benson made a major discovery. Everyone was confused when facing the photos. The background of the photos turned out to be a cockfighting arena, frequented by alcoholics. The roosters here had their combat power enhanced by injecting drugs, and short knives were tied to their ankles. It was very cruel. Why was Laura's father also present here? Following the road sign in the picture, everyone quickly went to the cockfighting arena, and indeed found Bieber there, and his injured hand wasn't caused by work, but pecked by a fighting cock. Under Benson's repeated questioning, Bieber finally told the truth. It turned out that Laura was a member of the Animal Protection Association. Laura had secretly taken photos because she opposed cockfighting. The two had a fierce argument because of this. Since then, Bieber had never seen his daughter again. By now, all the clues had been linked together. The reason for Laura's emotional outburst in the clothing store was most likely that she discovered the clothes were made of animal fur, but Benson still felt confused. What exactly did the female body parts in the computer mean? Just then, the forensic sampling results were also completed. There were actually two different fibers in the dog's mouth. One belonged to John, and the other was the murderer's blue hemp-like fiber. At the same time, police officers March and Tutu were interrogating John. The other person claimed that he was having intimate activity with Laura on the night of the crime. Unexpectedly, the dog mistook their actions for a fight and bit into his pants. As for the photos Laura took, they turned out to be footage she recently shot for her university supervisor. The Special Homicide Unit headed straight for the supervisor's lecture venue. Based on the clues, Taylor found that the covers of the books on the table were actually the footage Laura had taken. Facing Benson's questioning, the supervisor said that Laura was his favorite student, recently filming a documentary to expose the dark secrets of the meat industry. There was a man named Jason who appeared very angry during Laura's interview. Based on this clue, the Special Homicide Unit quickly locked onto Jason. During the interrogation, it was learned that he had suffered from renal failure last year, after eating a hamburger with E. coli exceeding the safety limit, and had to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Jason had tried to sue the chain supermarket, but the other person shifted the blame to the meat supplier. Eventually, the matter fizzled out. To expose this corrupt industrial chain, Laura interviewed all the protesters, including her mentor George. Benson keenly picked up on this clue, and went to question George right away. It turned out that he had a mentor-apprentice relationship with Laura, and both shared the same goal. Because Laura's act of exposing the dark secrets had touched the interests of multiple parties, George hoped that the Special Homicide Unit would hand over Laura's documentary master tape to him to track down the mastermind. The tricky thing was the master tape was nowhere to be found. Helplessly, the two had to go back to Laura's residence to rummage through the materials, but after turning the room upside down, they still couldn't find the master tape. In the nick of time, Tutu found a flaw. George had actually concealed the truth from everyone. He wasn't Laura's mentor but a journalist, dedicated to exposing social dark secrets. March pointed out that George had once hired a teenager to take part in illegal underground racing, leading to the other person's tragic death in an accident. As a result, he was fired by his newspaper agency, but he still didn't learn his lesson. In order to uncover the truth he desired, he actually let Laura sneak into the meat factory to film evidence. Learning this clue, Taylor and Benson quickly found George for questioning. At first, the other person still denied it, but after learning that he was suspected of obstruction of official business, George had to reveal the whole truth. It was Laura who took the initiative to seek his help, so he taught her filming skills. But he didn't expect to bring about Laura's fatal disaster. According to the address provided by George, the Special Homicide Unit quickly rushed to the Slaughterhouse for investigation. As soon as they walked in, they saw founder Ellie being interviewed by a TV station. The Slaughterhouse employees revealed to Tutu that the enterprise had an excellent reputation. The only shortcoming was that the staff turnover was very high. Tutu then asked Laura's colleagues, but everyone spoke very highly of her, thinking that Laura was a gentle little girl. Although she had been employed for a short time, everyone liked her very much. There was even a boy named Ivan, who showed extraordinary favoritism to her. The other person was a playboy, who had harassed Laura many times. Director Daniel was worried that his bad behavior would affect the enterprise, so he decisively fired him, and provided his address to the Special Homicide Unit. Ivan was taken back to the police station for interrogation right away, but he insisted that the two were just friends, and that he was out for a walk on the night of the crime. But the next second, the lie was exposed. The forensic doctor found that the DNA extracted from Ivan's sneakers was an exact match with the semen at the crime scene through DNA matching. Obviously, he was the murderer. In the face of the evidence, Ivan still prevaricated. Therefore, the Special Homicide Unit decided to go to his home to look for key evidence. Facing Benson's questioning, Ivan's wife Lillian appeared very angry, claiming that she had long wanted to drive Ivan out of the house. When learning that Benson needed to find a pair of blue pants, Lillian suddenly said that Ivan had recently discarded a pair of bloodstained blue pants. Benson and Taylor launched a carpet-style search right away, finally found the key evidence in the trash can, and rushed it back to the police station. The forensic doctor confirmed that the blood on the pants indeed belonged to Laura. Just as they were preparing to arrest Ivan, the case unexpectedly took a turn.
Someone else was wearing Vargas's pants?
Everyone was immediately shocked. What on earth was going on? After sorting out the clues, the Special Homicide Unit guessed that someone might have deliberately framed Ivan. The biggest suspect at present was his wife, Lillian. Based on this speculation, Benson and Taylor went to Ivan's home again, facing the questioning of the two. The guilty Lillian couldn't explain her whereabouts that night, and finally collapsed and confessed. A mysterious woman had sent evidence of Ivan's infidelity, and Lillian, filled with resentment, agreed to cooperate with the other person for revenge. First, she took out her husband's clothes, and finally even secretly collected Ivan's semen, placed these two things on a bench outside the church, and waited for the other person to pick them up. The next day, she received blood-stained clothes and a note sent by the woman. The other person said that if the police came to the door, she should hand over all these items to the police. This act was simply very foolish. Lillian not only credulously believed the woman's slander, but even framed her own husband together with the other person. It was only at this point that she realized she had involved Ivan in a carefully planned murder case, and her own situation was even worse. The next second, Ivan,
Vanessa Vargas, you're under arrest for obstruction,
who had cleared his suspicion, was finally acquitted, but facing the predicament of Lillian's arrest, he left without looking back and even claimed that she deserved it. It's simply incredible. Returning to the case, Benson guessed that the reason the murderer tried to kill Laura might be that she discovered the secrets in the slaughterhouse. In order to uncover the mastermind, the Special Homicide Unit decided to carry out an undercover plan. Benson disguised herself as a migrant worker and sneaked into the slaughterhouse, but she unexpectedly discovered that
cockroaches.
Benson learned from the cleaner that the environment here had always been dirty, messy, and poor. Only when the health department conducted inspections would they carry out rush rectification. When Benson continued to question, the cleaner warned her with a solemn expression not to meddle in other people's business. The cleaner revealed that a girl had been forcibly taken away by Daniel for taking photos of the evidence. This clue perfectly matched Laura's experience. Benson quickly went to the office to look for evidence. After a search, she finally found the documentary master tape, but just then,
Looks like snooping to me.
in the nick of time, Taylor rushed in and subdued him. During the interrogation, Daniel claimed the police had made an illegal entry and insisted he didn't kill Laura. He even arrogantly said that the police had no evidence to convict him. Worse still, the master tape of the video was maliciously stomped on. During the scuffle, just when everyone was at a loss, the forensic doctor suddenly informed the Special Homicide Unit the sweat DNA on Ivan's pants actually belonged to Daniel. All signs showed that he was the murderer of the case. Just as the Special Homicide Unit was about to arrest him, Ellie from the slaughterhouse hurried to the police station. With a professional lawyer, Ellie pleaded with the captain, saying that Daniel had always been dedicated. There must be some hidden reason behind this. She implored the captain to allow them to meet, and promised that Daniel would confess everything. After weighing the pros and cons, the captain agreed to this request. In the interrogation room, Daniel, who insisted on his innocence, continued to deny, but after Ellie's persuasion, he suddenly confessed everything. Daniel claimed that he hated Laura because she was going to submit the evidence in her hand to the relevant authorities. Once the factory was investigated, he would face the crisis of unemployment and couldn't continue to support the elderly and children in his family. In a fit of anger, he brutally murdered Laura. At the same time, the videotape was successfully repaired, which recorded the dirtiest side of the factory. But just then, Benson suddenly noticed that Daniel was obviously left-handed in the video, but the murderer used their right hand to commit the crime. The case took another turn. Benson guessed that the murderer was most likely Ellie, because once the video was made public, she would be the one who suffered the most. Based on this key clue, Benson and March hastened to find Ellie. The other person still prevaricated with the excuse of claiming ignorance. But Benson suddenly found from a group photo on the table that Daniel turned out to be her son. Seeing that her lies were exposed, Ellie, who flew into a rage, actually made an astonishing move.
Look at that, Munch.
March quickly arrested her. At this point, the case was finally revealed in its entirety. The core theme of this episode focuses on food safety issues. The episode cleverly uses a dog as the entry point of the case. At the beginning, the plot unfolds in a tightly linked manner. Gradually, Improving the clues, eventually, the truth is revealed. At the same time, the two elements of pet lovers and food safety are used to gradually reveal Laura's multiple identities. This complex identity setting not only makes her image more three-dimensional and plump, but also sets up an intriguing foreshadowing for the development of the subsequent plot. Unexpectedly, the amiable old lady in front of the camera cruelly killed the girl in order to cover up the truth. Finally, it led to Laura's tragedy. It also reveals the hidden dark side of the current industrial chain. It also reminds us that we must pay attention to product health to make sure our own life safety. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.